Hello folks, and welcome to the Vertigo Tea Party, and let's play Planetbase. We're going to start with a new game. We're going to start on the accessible planet to begin with. I've put a few hours into this game, but not quite enough to be a master yet. We're going to go T-Base 1. Sounds like a decent name for a first planet. And we will say press any key as our people land. As you might imagine, this is a colonization game. You build a little, like, on the surface of the new hostile planet. You get to build like a city, and you have to make your people happy and meet their needs and all that kind of a thing. And you cannot skip this, by the way, which is not too bad, but it can be annoying. But anyway, in this game, you have to build a lot of things initially very quickly. And I won't be able to explain all of what it does for those of you who are like new and maybe not know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. I will explain it a little bit better as we move along. But initially, I'm going to be building kind of quick. So first things first, I want to take a look at our layout. Not great. A lot of rocky areas, which I really dislike. Oof. This is not great. Actually, yeah, what? This is not too bad. It's not too bad. Let's do this. All right, first things first, I like to get our power generation going ASAP, if not sooner. So let's go ahead and build this over here as far as we, wow, we can build that there. Oh, nice, it actually clears the rocks, huh? I did not know that. We're gonna want to get a power collector as well. Power collector is basically store energy, so that when you have excess, it goes into the battery. And if you drop down later on, so it's like nighttime, obviously you're not collecting power with solar generators. You can still actually get said power. So we're gonna wait. Actually, no, we're not gonna wait for that. I want to get our people moving immediately so we can get some, we kind of need oxygen and whatnot to survive, oddly enough. And we'll put all O2. I don't know why. First off, let's link these two. And now we want to build oxygen. Yeah, the way this connection stuff works is a little flaky. Go ahead and get power there. I'm going to go ahead and recycle the space station immediately just to get it out of the way. I'm going to connect these two. So this will be our solar generator and get our power collector up as fast as possible. Good, good, good. We got all that done. And next I want to get a wind turbine. Wind turbines can get us energy night or day, because obviously they don't rely on the sun. But they're not as consistent, right? Because it's not always all that windy. Let's go ahead and also build an airlock so people can actually get inside, get some of that sweet, sweet oxygen that people tend to like so much. We also need to grab some water generators, or create some, not grab some. I generally like to have all of my creation items, whether it be energy or water, off to the one side. So we're probably gonna want more of that, so let's leave some room. I'm gonna put our water over here. And we're gonna kind of build in this direction. I kind of wish I'd have went that way, but not a big deal. Not gonna doom us. So we need water. We can also build a water reservoir to hold extra water, but early on I don't think that's as necessary as getting built out. So the one thing that kind of sucks about how this is set up is I don't think it's gonna let us build on top of that. Like, they're not smart enough to move it. They have to actually go ahead and move it ahead of time. So let's go ahead. I like to build the food next. Or I build the mess hall, canteen, as it's called. Because this should start generating water, because this is going to start pumping water. And for the oxygen generator, you need both power and water. And that will start generating water soon. And again, sorry I'm kind of building things quickly here without explaining them too much. But we'll go over that here shortly. Why is this not allowing me? Okay. Yeah, I really, really dislike this aspect of this game where you can't build on supplies. It gets kind of annoying. It's like, okay, if I put it there, the people should be smart enough to be able to move the stuff out of the way and just make this a blueprint, right? Tell you what, let's build around it. We're gonna have to get storage very soon. We'll build a dorm over here. No, actually, you know what? Really don't want to do it that way. Let's go ahead and build the canteen. We'll build it as close as we can get it. It's not perfect, but we want it to be max range anyway, like this, because later on you can actually build, and just to kind of show you how that works, you can actually build larger versions of most buildings. So like this is the base version of the canteen where people go to eat, but if I scroll up, I can make a one size larger. Obviously it takes more resources, but it can also house more people. And pretty much everything needs to be linked. And the link will be either just power and water, or in this case for internal buildings, it will actually make tunnels so that people can go in between them. So that is gotten started. I want to get storage built very quickly, but we want storage to be fairly centralized so that people can get to it easily. No, not the processing plant. And it is an indoor building. So, and again, we want everything max range. I tried a different tactic last time that worked fairly well, but it was a very slow start. You can see our battery is full up, and we're actually still generating power thanks to the wind generator, and because the wind is going fairly steady here, which is a good thing. High winds is good, unless it's a sandstorm, not by Darude, just a regular sandstorm. Those are bad. Let's go ahead and give these folks a dorm so they got somewhere to sleep. Now dorms, this is going to be a fairly small dorm. Here we go, we'll do it this way. I love the lighting effect at night. I don't know why, I just really think it gives it kind of a creepy, spooky look. Why is this running low on oxygen? Oh, it's just because it's pumping out a lot of oxygen to new buildings, I guess. It should correct itself shortly. I'm not overly concerned. Oxygen will naturally spread from the oxygen generator throughout the building. And for a long time, a small oxygen generator is all you really need. We need to link these as well so people can actually get inside. So people come in through an airlock. They have to come in through an airlock. They can't go in any other way. And you can have more than one airlock, as you can imagine. Generally speaking, I only have one, maybe two airlocks though. So we got storage going up and going, but we gotta get it connected first. So as you can see, there's a lot of connectivity that you have to plan around. And one thing that makes that a little bit more complicated is rooms like the dorm. You can see at the bottom left there's like a little T in the description. That means it can only connect to one area. So this dorm cannot have any other pods connected to it. Honestly, it feels incredibly arbitrary. It feels like it's more of a gameplay function than a realistic, like why are dorms only able to connect to one pod, but most other things can do as many as, well, not as many as you want, but like 4 connections. Doesn't make a ton of sense. It's not a big deal, but it's something you definitely want to keep in mind when you're getting your base up and going. So we've got things going fairly well. We've got the basic needs done. Oh, we need to also, forgot, within these pods, you can often build additional, like, I call them like workstations. This is things that people have to use to do their jobs or fulfill whatever need it is inside of that dome. So in the canteen, we need a table for people to sit and eat at. We also need a meal maker. Meal maker basically takes food and turns it into like food products and turns them into meals. So your tomatoes, corn, synth meat can just be dumped into here and it makes it into a delicious meal. We also want a water fountain so people can stay hydrated, and we'll get a video screen as well so people can watch television and relax a little bit. So let's hit T. This changes the layout up top here so we can see our resources. This is meals. This is what people actually eat. Like you can have tomatoes and stuff, but people will not eat that. They need meals, or they need them turned into meals. So we had a lot of that stuff in the space station, as you can imagine, or in the ship, as you can imagine. So we're okay on that for now. There's 2 building resources in this game. There's metal, which you can mine ore and get that. Well, you can mine ore and then turn it into metal. You also have bioplastics. Bioplastics you get from starches and foods, which are then turned into the bioplastic. We have medical supplies and spares, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So now we've got the absolute basics set up. Oh, we also in the dorm. If you hit tab, you can also get rid of the roofs so you can see a little bit easier. This needs some beds. We have, how many people do we have? We have 7 people. 2 bunk beds should be enough for now, because that's 4 people. They don't all necessarily sleep at the same time, so they can rotate. Those are milestones. You don't have to worry about what milestones are for the time being. All right, let's see, what do we want next? Well, the very first thing, we've got to get making our own resources, because the stuff that comes with us in the ship isn't going to last forever, as you can imagine. So the first thing I like to make is a biodome. Please, no Polyshore jokes. Please, let's move on. Let's pretend the Polyshore era of America never happened. We're again going to put this as far away as possible. And again, as with most things, and there's not just 2 sizes. With the biodome, I know I'm trying not to say anything. With the biodome, you have 3 sizes, the small, medium, and the large. Again, as you can imagine, different sizes will allow you to put more and more plants in there. Now, I'm going to go with just the smallest of everything to start with until we can get our base resources going, and then I'll expand out. And I'll be curious to see how that goes, because last time I basically built everything large to start with, like the absolute max size, and it worked, but it was a little rough because I was running very low on resources due to, just inexperience and all that. I definitely built suboptimally. So this will get us starches for our bioplastics. Now we need to start getting ore. I'm not too worried about our people's happiness just yet. We don't let them know I said that, but I'm not overly concerned about that. So the next thing we need is a mine. A mine goes outside and must be built at the edge of a mountain. And the nice thing, well, not really positive or negative, the thing about mines is they do not require, or there's no multiple sizes. There's just a single mine size. We're actually gonna go, we'll go right here. Well, actually, in case we built that larger later on, let's go ahead and build it a little bit further out. And the reason I'm building things a bit further out, just to kind of explain that a little bit better, since we got a little bit of downtime, and you can speed these guys up, but again, during this initial phase where I'm kind of building out and kind of thinking about how I want to build and explaining it, I'm going to let them run at slow mode, or normal mode rather. So the reason I'm building things out further than is necessary when you normally want to cramp is because later on, when we've got more resources, I'd like to get these upgraded in size. This biodome is going to be way too small to support a larger population. I just will not be able to grow enough food and starches and medicinal plants in order to supply the entire base. Now, one option is to just build a second one, right? I don't like that. Personally, I want my buildings to be as efficient as possible. So I would rather have my base be small in because if I have to build another medicinal, like 2 or 3 more medicinal domes, we're going to be spreading out over a very large area of the base. And that's bad for a few reasons, in particular because of meteor strikes. The bigger your base is, obviously, the more likely a part of it's going to get hit by a meteor and be destroyed. There's defenses against that, but again, you have to build multiple defenses if your base is very large. So I would much rather come back later on and upgrade these to destroy them and then make them a larger size, which in itself can be difficult the way this game is set up, but wow, that meteor struck in the side of a mountain. That's pretty cool. But anyway, that's my thought process, just so that you understand that. So we've caught up the biodome. We got to get this going as quickly as possible. So we have our normal foods. First I want to get some rice pads because I want to get starch going as soon as possible. And let's see, we're gonna go ahead and build a tomato pad. I'm just getting these down, and I'll kind of explain them in a little bit. Let's go with another tomato pad and 1 medicinal pad, so that we've got some medicinal plants being created. And as you see, when you lay this stuff down, when you hover over it, it'll tell you what it costs. Most things like this will cost 1 bioplastic. Why does an onion cost a bioplastic? Don't think about it too much. It's just a simplistic way of dealing with the resources and building in the game. So I want to get those building immediately. And there are a few types of different types of food. You have these starchy foods. They don't produce as much food, but they produce starch. And starch, again, you use for bioplastics. Your regular foods like tomato, lettuce, onions, and radish, those make more foods but no starch. Also, some foods grow faster but require your biologists to be maintaining them more frequently. So in other words, they take a lot more micromanagement from your people. But then you have the other side where you get things like mushrooms. They grow very slow, but they take very little maintenance. They take very little time away from your biologists. Typically speaking, I'd rather just have more biologists and have the fastest growing foods as possible. So we got this going. We got workers working the mine. That's good. So now that we've got that started, we need to be able to turn these materials into the final products, turning the starch into bioplastics and the ore into turn this ore into steel, the starch into bioplastics. So for that, we shall have a processing plant, and we will conveniently place it in the middle. This is definitely a suboptimal base build, just so you know. At least for me, I think. Again, I want this as far away as possible to upgrade it later. Possibly upgrade it later. One thing I don't like about this game is that, let's say I wanted to delete this. I cannot do that because it would orphan these nodes. So I don't know how realistic it's going to be able to upgrade later on, because I can't just delete this, right? I don't know if it's possible, and it really, really limits how you can upgrade your base later on. Let's see, that's got started. The storage is filling up. The workers are putting the stuff into the storage. See, this is kind of inefficient, right? To put stuff into storage, these guys are going to have to go into this what is this called again? The airlock, and come all the way around in the storage. That shouldn't continue to be an issue. However, for the miners, I might want to, you know what? Let's do that. Let's have an airlock. Can we have one? No, I don't want it here. I want it by the mine, but I want it to connect to this. Well, that's not as bad. It can go straight into storage, which I guess is okay. That's fine. We'll do that. Because this will save the miners a ton of time. So instead of, again, they'd have to go all the way out here and travel down here, they can go right into the airlock, boom, drop it into storage and pop, come in here. It still has to be carried over here to processing, which is a bit suboptimal to say the least, but it is what it is. Oxygen is basically entirely based on, or oxygen usage is based entirely on how many people you have. So I'm not worried about that. We're not getting new people. We're not going to for a little while. The power I'm going to have to keep an eye on. We've got actually quite a bit of nighttime left. Power is getting pretty low, so we are going to need some more power generation, I think. That or power storage. We'll have to keep an eye on it, and we'll see here in just a minute, because the wind is not going very well, and you don't want to be losing power frequently if at all possible. Let's go ahead and get... This is the bioplastic converter, and this converts our ore into steel. Looks like it's about to be daylight, but we're still losing power. So there's two thought processes that I have going in with power. You can either build more things that generate power, or build more capacity. I would rather have, let's try actually, and this time, let's actually go with more actual generation. We're gonna go with another wind turbine. The other nice thing about wind turbines is they're cheap. They're inexpensive. You know what, let's link it to that. Because that would make it easier to destroy this later on. Yeah, so power storage is critical, but that's okay because now we're generating enough. Well, we're about to generate enough to get us back into the positive, I think. No, not quite. It's about to break even, come on. You can also turn buildings off, so if you're not using a building, you can disable it to save some power. But this is definitely one of those things where I've really got to watch. So let's start to look at our charts, because I haven't done that just yet. So right now our generation is 42, but we're consuming 30, and obviously that's going to change because power coming in is never going to be consistent, regardless. So that's fine for now. I definitely want to get our power more steady. Got to stay ahead of power. Water is also getting a bit low. So how are we doing on resources? We've still got 16 steel. So we're doing okay there. Let's go ahead and build some more water. Because the thing that I have screwed myself over on, and I do this in every game like this ever. But the thing I screw myself on, let's put it right here. Come on. Actually, you know what? We might go ahead and build a big one. How much is it? It's only 2. Yeah, it's only 2 steel versus 1. I would much rather have the bigger generation. Yeah, let's put it here. Come on. All right, fine, whatever. The lines between things can be a little tricky. Like, I feel like it should have been able to connect here, but whatever. And we have these guys really working at getting ore, which is good. We don't have the machines to convert them just yet. Let's take a look at our population too. So, before we do that, let's go look at our population, but I want to make sure our people are building constantly, because we've got to get to an equilibrium state, what I like to call the AFK state. The AFK state is where I could just go to work or take a shower or leave the house for several hours and come back and my base is still running normally. In other words, it's completely self-sufficient. It takes no requirements from me. It's, you know, they're never going to run out of food. They're not going to run out of oxygen, power, anything like that. So I want to get it to the self-sufficient state first, or, you know, as soon as we can. Believe it or not, a multi-dome can be handy for that because that keeps people happy. Because if they ain't happy, then they get they don't really work as fast. But right now, happiness is not really an issue. But however, they can get sick, they can get injured. So given that, we want to start. Actually, first thing, let's make the sick bay. Sick bay is where you might, again, as you might imagine, people go when they're sick. Now, sick bay, I don't see a need to have a big sick bay. The small sick bay, I think, is fine. So we're going to connect that. Get them working on that. Now, the sick bay requires med packs in order to work. And you make med packs from medicinal plants. So, and the lab is where you actually grow where you take the medicinal plants that you grow at the greenhouse and you turn them into, you know what, hold on, let's do this. It's not quite efficient enough. Not efficient enough. Because I want the greenhouse, the medic area, and the lab all close to each other. So we'll put this. Put this here. Link them up. Next we will have the lab. And the reason I'm doing this is because the people who work in the med lab, or the people who take care of people, also work in the lab in order to create the medical, the med packs themselves. Heck, why can I not connect? Oh, I bet that's a dead end, isn't it? Let's take a look. The med lab is a dead end building, which again, I really feel like that's a forced thing, but it is what it is. We'll go ahead and just put the lab then. We can go ahead and start considering making the larger items, but let's stick with our current strategy. I really want to wait until our process is going good. I want to make sure we've got a steady stream of steel and bioplastics before we really want to go crazy with it. So just kind of checking up on everything. Did I make that TV? I don't think I swear I made a television. I did this oh, I think if you put a television on a wall, and then put a tunnel, it just destroys the TV. Like, I don't think it puts a new one. I mean, again, that's really their only entertainment these people have, because then see this person right now, you can click on them. Well, theoretically you can. Again, if they get unhappy, they won't work as efficiently. So since we've got our buildings building, let's take a look at some of the people. That's a very important aspect of the game. This game does a good job of having all your charts and whatnot available so that you can see what's going on. Wow, people are unhappy. That kind of sucks. I don't know why they're that unhappy. They got food and stuff. Well, whatever. Anyway, so we have 7 total colonists. We have 3 workers. Workers are general purpose. They can carry stuff. They can work in the mine. They can work some of the building objects, stuff like that. You have biologists. Biologists are required to keep up with the greenhouse. They also make meat, the synthetic meat in the lab. The engineers will do things like make chips, make maybe guns too, things like that. Medic, as you can imagine, they treat the injured, but they also make med packs in the lab out of the medicinal plants. Guards we'll get into, and visitors we'll get into later. We also have a few bots. We have a carrier bot, which just carries things, and we have a constructor bot, which helps to build. Now, people can do I think anybody can do construction, maybe just workers can. Anybody can carry stuff. However, 1, they've got more important things to do than carrying boxes around, and 2, oh, you're damaged. Somebody should fix him at some point. Also, the bots are just faster at carrying things around because, well, they have wheels and they don't have to worry about exhaustion and stuff. People are starting to get unhappy, so let's go ahead and build a recreation center because I do not want them to be unhappy because unhappy people are inefficient people, and inefficient people makes me unhappy, and I don't want to be unhappy. So let's get them to building that. Now, I want to get a construction center built fairly quickly, or a manufacturing area, because that will repair the bots. And if your construction bot gets destroyed like permanently, it can really suck because you can't build another one until you buy a blueprint, and blueprints for the bots are very, very expensive. So we are still doing not great. We're not doing awful energy, but we're not doing great either. Let's take a look at our grid power, or our chart here. You can see we're using about 9 more power than we're generating. And if the wind were to stop blowing, it would be hurting even more. And the power storage is just kind of giving us a little leeway. Water, we've got plenty of water. Water storage is not really a big necessity. Water storage is more like, oops, I goofed. I've built more than I need, and now I'm using more water. And I need a little bit of a cushion to get that back up. But even I don't do that too much. Water is a fairly easy resource to manage. Oxygen is the same thing. Oxygen is purely based on how many people you have. So 1 person uses 1 unit of oxygen. So we have, how much did I say, how much do we have? We have 20 capacity. So once we hit 20, if we hit 1 more person, we're going to start running low on oxygen. Again, very easy as far as that goes. You can see construction is grinded to a halt because this 1 bot has been damaged. And again, people will build, but it's a little bit annoying for them to wait for them to do so. Now the wrench, I think... Ooh, our power is getting low too. We're going to have to build some more power. We're not quite to the AFK point. We're getting close. We're getting close to the AFK point. Because that's where I kind of wanted to stop the video, this video on. And by the way, this will be a fairly short series. I don't really have a set stopping point on when, you know, I've decided I want to end. Anyway, just kind of throwing that out there. But yeah, okay, so it looks like these need to be managed or they won't grow food. Wither on the vine, so to speak. Oh, we run out of power, but we should come back here in just a second. Now that it's getting daylight. Come on. How much are you generating? Only max 30? Alright, so it's gonna get fixed here shortly, but we don't want that to continue to happen. Right, we do not want that to continue to happen. So I want... How are you guys doing? We have 2 ore and 2 starch. So I'm ready to go ahead and start building more large power generation items. Let's go with wind turbines. Last time I went really heavy into solar. I'm going to try wind turbines. This is the biggest turbine you can make. And I'm going to, again, build it as far as possible. Link it here. And I'm going to prioritize it. Now, theoretically, when you prioritize stuff like this, it should be built faster. I find that that's not necessarily the case. It feels fairly hit or miss whether that actually happens or not. It feels like they build fairly willy-nilly, and you cannot order your people to do something. Like, I can't say, okay, stop what you're doing, carry these boxes inside. I can't do things like that, and I'm fine with that. But the AI is a little bit, shall we say, iffy at times in regards to that. But anyway, yeah, I want to try wind power this time with solar. Solar is nice and steady during the day. I know that during the day, even if there's no wind, it's not going to be an issue. But otherwise, it can be, obviously at night, it's generating literally 0. Also, the thing that can hurt is sandstorms. If there's a sandstorm, you'll still generate power with your solar panel, but not anywhere near as much. It's like 25% as much. It's not very good. Our power is going up, but not by anywhere near as much as we would like. And just to kind of go over the UI as we wait, again, I can increase the speed, but while we're in a critical state, I really don't want to do that. I want to be very ready to jump on something if it happens. And there's also no pause, so I like to just kind of wait. But anyway, going over the UI really quick, over here at the top right, this is how many colonists you have, this is how many bots you have, this is how much time is left in the day or in the night, and this is your overall wind speed. Obviously for us, higher wind speed equals good because that's power. And you can hit T, you can either click this or you can push T to toggle the panel, and this shows you pretty much all the resources that you have stored. This is vegetables, meals, or steel, well, metal, whatever, I call it steel. Starch, bioplastic, medicinal plants, medical supplies, and spares. Spares are used automatically when your various mechanisms break down, like these solar panels and wind panels and all that. They require spares to fix. And if you run out of spares, obviously that can be bad because they end up breaking down, and you definitely don't want your energy generation breaking down on you, especially when your energy generation is what gets you oxygen. So this is the multi-dome, basically the rec room. We're going to put some exercise bars in here. We'll put 1 water fountain. And we won't put it there, obviously. And I actually just put the exercise bars. Actually, you know what? We're kind of low on metals. So let's do a bench for the last thing. And this way people can come in and relax. And luckily they don't have to build the things, like they don't have to build the exercise bars and the chairs. They just take the resources. So in this case, somebody will bring a steel resource and then just build the exercise bar on the spot. In fact, we can watch this very unhappy person do it. Look, you're building the thing that's going to help you relax. Relax. I guess he might not be able to build it, workers. I'm still not 100% clear on who can do what in all cases. And of course, he could just be stopping working because he's unhappy. Yeah, I wish we'd have got this done a little bit sooner. And you can see again, they're producing these resources, the vegetables. They show themselves as just boxes of things, and then people take either the boxes to the meal maker, or they will take it to storage if there's no room in the meal maker. So this is done. I would rather see. We don't have anything in the sick bay yet. We don't have anybody injured yet. So I'm not going to worry about the medic bay just yet. So let's work on the lab. We want to get actually medical supplies is not too important either. However, I would actually like to get the, what is this called? The tissue synthesizer. This makes, what is it? It makes some kind of vitro meat. And vitro meat doesn't grow very quickly, but it's a good supplement, especially early on since our garden area, our biodome is not very large. it'll help produce, or it'll help increase how much food we make. So we've got at least one chair, so that's good. So this person sitting in the chair is gonna relax, he's gonna be happier, just staring at the water fountain, thinking about better days, wishing he would not have come to Mars or whatever planet it is we're supposed to be on. Hopefully he doesn't think about that too long and gets his ass back to work. I don't know if bars are better about getting people to be happier faster. I honestly have no idea. So are you actually getting happier? Because there is a TV in here, or at least there was. And one cool thing too is you can actually click on a dome and click the camera and look around. Did my TV get destroyed again? I feel like it did. I must have put it... Dang it, because it cost me resources to make that TV. So it's kind of a bummer when it destroys it. Yeah, I don't think it did have it in there. That's one thing I don't like. If it destroys the TV because I put a tunnel there, like either move it or put it into inventory. I don't know if you get your resources back from that or not. All right, so power is something I'm very concerned about because it's becoming nighttime. We do have our ultra turbine built, which is awesome. And we are using power at a fairly steady clip. So let's actually turn off the sick bay. We don't need that right now. And how's our food situation? We have plenty of meals and food. So I'm actually going to disable the structure as well. That will help cut back on how much power we're using. And do not, I have almost done this a few times. Like when I'm clicking on this and I want to go back, a lot of times I want to click up here. This will recycle this building. In other words, it'll delete it. It does ask you if you know, before you do it, if you're sure, but it's still a little scary. Oh, good thing there's no wind at all. Wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. I would be okay with a sandstorm right about now. So we're generating literally zero power right now. But luckily we're not going through the power too horribly quick, all things considered. So, you know, hey, bright side. So we got all our beds used up. But nobody's tired right now, so I'm not concerned about it. I don't like that these some of these plants are not getting the full attention they should be, but our food generation right now is not too bad. We have a medic bay ready to go. We've got some medicinal plants slowly growing. Medicinal plants grow pretty darn slow. But the flip side of that is people don't tend to get injured a lot, so it's not as big of a deal. All right, good. We got the bars. Again, we can go in here and watch the dude. Oh, wait, no, we can't. Oh, no camera in the multi-dome. But people are chilling out, which is good. That's good. This is off. That's fine. So I'm just kind of taking mental stock. My biggest concern right now is power. I'm concerned we're not making enough power. So now the wind's going. Okay, we're actually generating power at night now. It's a little, you know, the wind seems to be a little bit of a dice roll as far as power generation. But if you have enough of them, and if you have enough collectors, it can help. Because when I built last time, I built like several just large collectors. I didn't actually have that much internal power coming in, but I had a ton of backup. So that during the day, I would be filling up these huge batteries with power. And at night, even though I wasn't generating much power, I had plenty storage to keep up with it. But again, you have to stay on top of that or you will screw yourself. Oh wow, we have a ton of nighttime left. How are we doing on power generation? We're generating more than we need right now, not by a ton. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out on daytime. If this gets full, if we can fill that, I want to build another power collector. How are we doing on resource? We have no steel at all, which is not good. We have 2 ore. That's the one problem, is ore generation is pretty darn slow. And this is, I feel like, the part of the game where things start to really slow down, because we start having problems with just being able to turn the item, like getting the raw resources we need, the steel, the metal, whatever, and the bioplastic. So this guy is making, well, that guy's making bioplastics. Really should be somebody doing steel as well. All right, so it's daytime. We're gonna keep an eye on this battery. Again, if it gets full, I'm probably either gonna build another one or replace that one. Even though, again, we have no steel. Power storage is It should not be critical right now. Okay, it's a little critical. It should fix itself shortly. Come on. Come on. Come on. I was just really not generating that much. I feel like we really need... Oh boy, that's really close. I feel like we need another solar generator. How much are those? Those are... Right now, they're pretty expensive for us. Since we don't have much generation of items. Goods. He's making some steel. That's good. This is what I'm talking about, where I don't really like wind generation, just because it's so unpredictable. Like, if you have a bunch of these, even just a little bit of wind will generate a lot of power, but that's a ton of resources tied up in just power generation. Whereas if you go with solar, it's pretty predictable during the day, right? Like, it's fairly consistent during the day. Again, we haven't hit a single sandstorm yet, which is fairly lucky. Yeah, go ahead and build that there. Obviously, we're not going to actually build it because we have no steel. But that's, you know, that's just where we are. All right, so that robot looks like he got fixed. That or he got destroyed completely. No, he's still around somewhere. All right, so we've got that going. We've got to figure out what the holdup here is. Another problem is we need more workers. We need like 2 people in here, like constantly, as soon as they can, building stuff. We can prioritize this building. Again, I have noticed very little difference prioritizing stuff. Like, I've had, you know, something like this prioritized before, and the workers were just kind of doing other stuff. And I don't mean like eating or exercising, like they were carrying stuff around. It's like, well, no, I want you to be working on this, not the other thing. Now, there's 2 ways we could look at this as far as getting more workers. We can build a landing pad, and that will allow new people to come in, and we can say that we want workers. But that means we need more food, more living space, things like that. More in particular, the most important thing is the more food. And the other side of that, the other option is to build something so that we can build more robots. Now, if the carrier robots are carrying all this stuff around, it's more efficient, and the workers that we have can focus on doing what they need to do. Let's go ahead. You know what? Let's try. I'm going to go different than I did last time. Last time I went with a landing pad. This time, let's actually go with, well, we can't make robots without a control center. And a control center, to be honest, I don't find to be very useful. And it's resource intensive, which is our #1 problem. So we'd have to build a control center and then build a robots facility, which is going to take a while to do. So you know what? Let's go ahead and just build a landing pad. We're going to build it. We can't really build it over here. Well, actually, yes, we can. Because the landing pad doesn't need to be connected to an internal building, obviously. Let's put you... We still want it to be close to an airlock, if possible. We don't want it over here, because this is where our power is going. Let's just put it here. All right, so that's what we'll do. Let's go ahead. And one really cool thing you can do is under this like settings tab, you can actually change your landing permissions. This will allow you to dictate what type of settlers you get. It can also allow you to turn off settlers, so like you don't have to keep bringing them in. You can just have trade ships land, which is pretty neat. I like that. So when that builds, we'll probably wrap up. Because I feel like we're not quite at self-sustaining yet. We're not at the AFK state just yet. Okay, so that guy's injured. We are going to go ahead and open up the sick bay. The game does have a little bit of micromanagement in that aspect, where, you know, especially in the early stages where you're trying to kind of get everything leveled out, it can be a little like you need to micromanage a little bit. Like, I've got a med bay just in case. It's not a building that's used much, but when you do need it, you need it, because this person will not work at all, I think. I think as soon as they're injured, I think they flat out just will not work. So we have to get them fixed. Oh shoot, we need beds. I forgot about that. You also can make a medical cabinet. I honestly don't know what it's for. I mean, it stores medical supply. Oh, it just stores the medical supplies. That way the person doesn't have to walk and go and get them. Right now, where we're kind of resource starved, I'm not going to use that just yet. I'd rather save that bioplastic for something else. So how are you guys doing over here? We are making more bioplastics, which is good. But again, I would much rather be able to say, put the priority on the metal processor. I want metal more than I want bioplastic, but you can't do that. You can only set the priority on the room as a whole. Oh, luckily, God, they got that bed built quick. Good. Very good. Thank you. Oh, that was actually the construction robot. Interesting. I guess he had to make the bed, so to speak. All right, so the injured person, I hope, is going to the med lab. Yes, they are. Good. And our medics should be free. They really shouldn't be doing too much else. So they should be able to get that person fixed up and getting back to work. Because with our base being so small, you want everybody, you know, carrying their weight. Now, one could argue that, you know, possibly build the landing pad sooner. Because one of our problems we're having right now is there's just not enough people to do everything we need to do. We need to get these plants kept up at optimal position or position, which actually we're not having a problem with right now. But our big problem is these things, these processors need to be manned constantly. And they're not, because we just don't have enough workers to do it. And again, the game is good about having these little help things for these different buildings and rooms that you can click on it and it'll tell you what they do. Like this is this processing plant component where a worker can turn ore into metal. So only a worker can use this, which is a little strange, but it's not a big deal. So that means we need more workers, because workers, again, are good to have general purpose. I find that you're going to have more workers than anything else, which makes sense. They're good at doing several things and are can do things that a lot of the other folks cannot do that are, you know, required. Hopefully our medic, yeah, there's our medic. And see, this is why you want the medic storage later on, because she had to carry that all the way from storage all the way over here. It probably doesn't make her too happy. If we can just put the storage bin, somebody will just fill it up, and then all she has to do is walk down here and fix this person up. So she's gonna get this person back up to 100%. They'll be all happy, working. Good. Good, good, good. One other thing that I like about this game. Oh, these are all starting to fall apart. But one other thing I like about this game is when you click on these objects, it will tell you what you need as far as resources and people and what it produces. So for the metal producer, it shows you need ore. It needs to be operated on by a worker, and it produces metal. And there's storage over here. So there's actually 2 ore inside of this right now. So it's not like they have to do a single ore at a time, right? Like, oh, I do 1 ore, turn it into steel, now I've got to go get another ore and bring it back. It will actually store up to 3 ore in there, which is great. I love that. I love little things like that. And I feel like a lot of people don't mention stuff like that. And then you have more complex things like the meal maker. So the meal maker will take any kind of vegetable or a vitro meat and turn it into a meal. It doesn't matter what you choose. There's no benefit, as far as I can tell, from mixing and matching, you know, meats and the various vegetables. It doesn't matter. It's, you know, it's just food as far as the game is concerned. That produces a meal. And then in storage, we've got, looks like 3 meals, and we've also got vegetables. So storage is shared between both the raw materials, in this case, vegetables and the vitro meat, and the finished product, which in this case is the meals. And then this will show you how far along this meal maker is into making the next meal. Obviously, the stuff like the meal maker is autonomous. It doesn't have to have somebody, you know, working on it. It just does its thing, which is good. You guys need to always be in there. I like to put priority on this as well, so that theoretically they will always be working on that. Our power, I like how obvious how much power this has is. So I can easily be way on the other side of the base, and I can eyeball and say, okay, that thing's at about 40%. So I need to keep an eye on that. I keep forgetting to look at it at the day. Actually, I did note during the day, it did get filled up. So to me, that says I need a bigger power storage. But right now, we're skirting the edge on power, and if we get a bad combination of like low wind and at a bad time, it could bone us. But right now I'm not too concerned. And again, this person no longer injured. We don't have anybody injured, so I'm going to turn that structure off. Again, I feel like later on when you get the power situation under control, it's not as necessary to micromanage the buildings. And again, I could turn this off as well to save power, but I'd rather not have to do that. You know, we're going to do it. We're going to do it anyway. Just because, again, once I see people are unhappy, or if I just, you know, wait until nighttime or something like that when people would normally be just chilling out, I might turn it back on. Just to, again, kind of manage my power a little bit better. And in fact, I'm going to turn it back on because we're generating a lot of power and we're going to cap out soon anyway. Not worried about it. But anyway, that's gonna wrap it up there. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this so far. And again, like always, my number one concern with these games is always feel like I'm trying to explain like a million things at once. And like it's overwhelming for like trying to tell you how everything works and whatnot. But on the flip side, I'm concerned. Oh, dang it, that person's injured. Gotta turn this back on. But at the flip side, I also don't want to be doing all this stuff, and people who have never played this game before are like, what are you doing? Like, what are you, like, why are you doing the thing that you're doing? So that's why I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to play stuff down and then sort of explain bits and pieces as we go along. That way I can kind of, you guys understand what's going on, but at the same time, I'm not talking a mile a minute trying to spit out all this information. So let me know what you guys are thinking. Which do you prefer? Would you prefer I explain it quickly, at least in the first 1 to 2 videos, so that you know what's going on and I'm not just looking like I'm building random crap? Do you think doing a good job explaining it, bad job explaining it? Again, positive, negative comments both help me to kind of gear how I'm describing this stuff as we go along. But again, we'll be doing a short series on this, at least to the point where I feel like we've got a decent population. We've got all or most of the tech buildings built, things like that. And then if people are really liking this series, I might, you know, start a new game on the next planet where the difficulty is a little bit higher. But we'll see what you guys think. Again, just leave your comments in the comment section below. Again, positive, negative, I like them both. It helps me to make these videos better for you guys. Also, like the video if you liked it, because that does help me out a bunch. And I will see you guys next time.